Yeah, so he spoke to the lower house members, the House of Representatives of Japan, and he said so the Bank of Japan has a lot of branches all around Japan, and he said he's hearing from the branches and the business leaders that this large unknown of where supply is coming from, and a lot of tourists, which one estimate says 400,000 Chinese tourists to Japan will cancel their trips in March. So all of these factors he said he is paying high attention to the fact that these are big unknowns for the Japanese business community. And he reiterated his commitment to the yen. And I think in terms of what this means from the source, I think we have to remember that this is a central bank and their message matters, and they are in charge of controlling expectation, or they have an effect on expectation. So what they're saying is also more of a commitment device for their commitment to their mandates.
So then as we look at where Japan's economy was already, how much does this now added suspension of things like public gatherings in Japan, how much does that add to some of the faltering that we're seeing in the economy?
Yeah, so it's hard to, as with any economy, say what is contributing really, but I think it might help to start with kind of comparing where Japan was before COVID broke out and what we might see after. So before this all happened, Japan had a tax hike, which a lot of people, professionals and normal citizens disagreed with. And earlier this week, on Japan time Monday, the Bank of Japan released annualized GDP numbers for the last quarter, so October to December of last year. So this was right before everything happened. And the economy showed a slump. It was a 6.3% annualized rate. That was the worst since 2014.
Right.
So if we define recession as 2 quarters of slowdown, if there's bad numbers in March, then it's going to be a slowdown.
Now, I do want to make sure we also turn to South Korea, because they do now have the highest number of confirmed coronavirus cases outside of China. How costly could this be for South Korea and its economy as the numbers grow?
Yeah, so South Korea, again, China is a big trading partner, and if we look at the regional flow of supply, they have the same concerns. And I think the fact that this is a large unknown for suppliers and a lot of electronics makers is going to remain a very high risk for them.
And speaking of the supply chain, obviously Japan and South Korea both home to some of the most recognizable brands, whether it comes to automobiles or technology. What do we know about sort of the domino effect that we might see in the supply chain?
So it's already started. Some companies have started issuing on their websites and in their releases late release dates, and because flights are grounded, they simply can't have these components coming in, and a lot of pushback has been seen from the actual people who are running the business, because they want to go to these places. And there was that iconic picture in the news of Japanese business people putting masks on, going to China in the earlier part of the outbreak. But to return to the supply chain story, the electronics companies are already starting to see the hurt, and that's part of the reason why the BOJ commitment means a lot.
So then, as you look at some of the measures that both countries are taking, how do you see that impacting longer-term economic concerns?
Yeah, so in Japan, they are discouraging people from going to high traffic areas. A lot of private companies are arranging their work styles so that people can stay home or come during later hours so they don't rush into traffic. But there's also been a lot of criticism in how the Japanese government has been handling all this. So in terms of consumer sentiment and consumer spending, which has been a huge challenge for Japan and for the central bank and the government to stimulate the economy, it's really not helping.
All right, thank you so